This is all about Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation, all Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lee, taking a look at Bitcoin for a live look. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index is at 37,906. Bitcoin is sliding down from its Monday spike of over 40,000, now down about 4.3% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data. Looking at our top stories, Amazon has denied a rumor it was planning to accept Bitcoin payments by the end of the year, following an erroneous City AM report earlier Monday that cited a single unnamed insider. Nevertheless, a spokesperson told CoinDesk the e-commerce colossus is interested in the space and is exploring specific plans for cryptocurrencies. Meanwhile, despite its recent concerns about Bitcoin's environmental impact, Tesla hasn't sold any more of its 1.3 billion stockpile of BTC since the first quarter of this year, when the company trimmed its Bitcoin position by 10%. Recently, Elon Musk also revealed that one of his privately owned companies, SpaceX, holds Bitcoin. And finally, Congress is continuing to hold hearings around the digital asset sector with 3 simultaneous meetings today to discuss different uses for cryptocurrencies. The Senate Judiciary Committee is holding a hearing on ransomware. The Senate Banking Committee is holding a hearing on crypto uses, and the House Financial Services Committee is holding a hearing on central bank digital currencies. And joining us now to discuss is a participant of the cryptocurrency use cases hearing. Joining me is Marta Belcher, chair of the Filecoin Foundation Board. Welcome to the show, Marta. So lawmakers are becoming increasingly concerned about different aspects of the digital asset industry. What were some of your key takeaways today?
Thanks so much for having me. Yes, so testifying today, I think I wasn't surprised, but to see that a lot of the questions focused on possible criminal use cases, particularly ransomware. I think you saw a pretty heavy emphasis on what do we do about ransomware, and isn't this a cryptocurrency problem? And so that was one of the focuses from the senators in the hearing that I was testifying in. The other one is we saw a heavy focus as well on environmental issues, which is something that's been repeatedly coming up in these types of hearings, including from Senator Warren. So those were 2 of the big topics today. I think as I would have expected.
All right, so perhaps you can go a bit about the tone and how do you feel these issues will be addressed?
Yeah, I think the tone varied, in some sense, down party lines. I think that the particular topic of this hearing was cryptocurrencies, what are they good for? That was the title. And so my goal really was to have this, yeah, I know, it's a little bit of a leading title. My goal was to really be there to talk about the use cases that are beyond financial services. But I think particularly on the Democrat side, we saw a lot of thinking about how cryptocurrencies should be regulated, and particularly Senator Warren suggesting that there ought to be a particular regulatory framework, particularly around cryptocurrencies. So the tone definitely varied, but it was it was heavily skewed towards thinking about regulation.
You said the tone went down party lines. Are you saying Republicans are in one way, Democrats are another? And if so, how define those differences, if you could?
Yeah, I think it's not always true, but I think that was true on today's. That did show up a little bit on today's hearing. It was a little less bipartisan than you would have liked.
Okay, so I guess do Democrats and Republicans differ in their views on crypto?
Well, again, I mean, I don't want to make generalizations about Democrats and Republicans, but I would say
fair enough.
Today in that particular hearing, I think we had a lot of the folks on the Republican side who were really thinking about cryptocurrencies use cases beyond just what exists today, and thinking about the potential future of cryptocurrency and making sure that we have a regulatory environment where the innovation can continue to thrive. And I think I think in terms of the concerns that were being raised on the Democratic side, was really thinking a lot about U.S. monetary policy, thinking about how we can regulate cryptocurrencies, and really thinking about the specific use case of being used in financial transactions.
All right. We also have a clip from the Judiciary hearing on ransomware. Committee Chair Dick Durbin's closing remarks summed it up quite nicely. Have a listen.
While we cannot stop ransomware attacks completely, we can certainly be better prepared. We learned today that preventive measures are more cost-effective and have greater impact on stemming the rise of these attacks than just increased enforcement alone. We also learned how critical information sharing is between private and public sectors across government agencies. What struck me about this hearing was there was a general bipartisan consensus on this side of the table.
So Senator Durbin is Democrat. Now, government officials have noted that while crypto helped ransomware attackers, these attacks may have happened regardless. Is this just a new reality we have to accept in the new digital age?
Well, I got questions about ransomware as well in the hearing. And my argument was that ransomware is not a cryptocurrency problem. Ransomware is a cybersecurity problem. And, it's a problem that certainly needs to be addressed. And there are legislative proposals in the works to potentially address that problem. But I think my point was that we shouldn't, as a result, call for bans on cryptocurrencies.
Right. Meanwhile, at the banking hearing, the industry representatives seem to point out to how crypto could help people as well as where the risks are. What's the right balance?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think so. That was so in the Senate Banking Committee in the hearing I was in, we were really trying to highlight the use cases of cryptocurrency and really make it clear that there are many, many things that you can do with this technology beyond what I think some senators thought about it, which is that it would be used to commit crimes. And so we really wanted to, I think I and Jerry Brito were really trying to highlight the ways in which cryptocurrency is first of all used already, all the different really exciting use cases, but also the ways we're really in early days, and it's important to make sure that the innovation in the space can continue to thrive and move forward.
Now, earlier you mentioned Senator Elizabeth Warren. She actually just came out with another letter urging the government to form a regulatory strategy to mitigate the growing risks that cryptocurrencies have. And this open letter, it was to U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, dated on Monday, July 26th. She urged for a coordinated and holistic response to the risk of crypto. What are your thoughts seeing Senator Warren in today's hearing, as well as this latest letter on the concerns around regulation in crypto?
Yeah, well, Senator Warren has had in recent weeks, there have been a couple of different things happening. There was a CBDC hearing where Senator Warren spoke, and she was very focused at the time on a variety of different points, but one of the big ones was the environmental impact of cryptocurrency. So that was one of the things she'd been talking about at the time. She also sent a letter to Gary Gensler, the chair of the SEC, and his response to that letter is due back tomorrow. So we'll see how he responds. And then just yesterday, right before this hearing, she also sent out that letter, pushing for the FSOC to potentially have a unifying cryptocurrency strategy. So, I think we're seeing concern from her around cryptocurrencies, and I really hope that folks in the industry can get through to her on addressing some of the concerns that she has.
All right. Well, we'll see about how the SEC answers her letter tomorrow. Marta, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that was Filecoin Foundation Board Chair Marta Belcher. Coming up, Bitcoin price analysis with institutional crypto exchange Symbridge.
CoinDesk indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, XBX, has been instrumental to Grayscale, enabling investors around the world to access Bitcoin through a regulated, familiar product.
CoinDesk indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
Bitcoin trading volumes jumping as BTC spiked over $40,000 Monday. Daily trading volume for Bitcoin reached over $9 billion, the highest since June 22nd, according to Arcane Research data. Trading volumes in Bitcoin were previously trending downward, with some saying this was in part due to Wall Streeters taking a break and heading out on summer vacations. Market action has been lackluster, with the price of Bitcoin remaining stuck in a range between $30,000 and $40,000 since May. The recent spike in trading volume could signal that when there's a market move, interest and activity quickly returns. Arcane Research noting, however, that overall, the 7-day average trading volume remains substantially below its yearly average, and trading activity in Bitcoin seems to be low so far this summer. And joining us now to discuss Bitcoin price and more from Greenwich, Connecticut is Michael McGuire at Symbridge, a crypto exchange focused on institutional and professional traders. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Hi, Christine. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Last week, analysts were talking about going as low as $20,000 for Bitcoin. This week, BTC, of course, spiked above $40,000. So what do you make of this upswing and the volatility we're seeing in Bitcoin right now?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty interesting. When you reached out to us last week to speak on this show, Bitcoin was trading at about 30,000, and today it's trading at about 40,000. So that's a lot of volatility in the market. It's something that people need to be considerate of and understand the risk when they're trading this asset.
Okay, well, so is another run-up possible, or will we expect continued dips as seen in previous months?
I think seeing what Chairman Gensler responds to, or how he responds to Senator Warren's letter, which is supposed to be due tomorrow, might have a dampening effect on the market. But if it's a measured response and not too reactive, I think we might see a run-up. With this type of liquidity and the leverage that's available in the market, you could see 50, but you could also see 25.
What are some of the best case or worst case scenarios from the response from the SEC? Because, people often say regulation is good for crypto. It'll clear the gray lines that we have, and it will give a clear road toward innovation. But there are, of course, folks who fear that regulation that goes a little too heavy-handed could stifle innovation.
Sure. I think market incumbents are probably a little bit more afraid of regulation than upstarts. We value transparency and regulation in the markets at Symbridge. That's really important to us. We have a blockchain native exchange, which addresses some of the issues that were raised in Senator Warren's letter about market manipulation, wash trading, spoofing, trading against your own clients. So I think that's important. What I'd like to see is some really thoughtful regulations and perhaps a recommendation that people in the industry come together and set out sort of rules of the road and what exchanges will do and what they won't do. And if we can't police ourselves and heavy-handed regulation comes in, then I think the whole market gets pushed offshore.
Right. So Senator Warren, as you mentioned, she has now written to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, in addition to giving the SEC a deadline tomorrow to outline how they will regulate crypto exchanges. How do you think this conversation will impact Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin being, the predominant use case for blockchain technology, and as you alluded to earlier, we don't want regulation to stifle it. So again, I think a measured response by the regulators, understanding that Bitcoin is a new asset class, or relatively new considering all asset classes, and to approach it with a delicate balance, because over-regulation is not going to help the market at all.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a sense of how institutions or large holders and investors are positioning themselves in the current markets?
I think if I recall, Tesla, while they sold some of their position, they still maintain the same level of position in Q2 that they did in Q1. So I think that's a good indicator. A lot of the research that's coming out from Fidelity is supporting more institutional adoption. 7 out of 10 institutional investors looking to invest in Bitcoin. But what they are looking for is a little bit more regulation in the space to create a safer and more transparent market. And we think that's really important.
Michael, end of year prediction?
I don't want to be caught on a prediction. I want to look like a smart guy for a really long time.
It's hard to do that in Bitcoin. Who knows where it goes? All right, Michael, fair enough. Thanks for coming on the show and offering your analysis. That was Symbridge CEO Michael McGuire. All right, that's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for First Mover, your first look at the day's global crypto news headlines. You're watching CoinDesk TV.